two Maimonim. Not this Maimon, the next one. This Maimon, the next one, is the Maimon after next. Because the Rebbe is sustaining this approach that the kav after the tzimtzum is gili a helam lagabe esfiras agduzas lifnei tzimtzum. It's not his chachos, it's not yesh miyayin. It's not a new oid. It's just gili a helam and miut. Those are the two lashonos that he uses. But it's only lefi drush zeh. It's only according to Achei Temimim. In my morning before the Yayim Beis, the kav is yesh miyayin lagabe lifnei tzimtzum. The Samach Vav calls it keich hagvul. So as I explained to you yesterday's class, the Rebbe Rashab is framing it. And the frame has to have two parts. How the Esesfiras HaGeduzas are lifnei HaTzimtzum. How the Kava is going to be La'achar HaTzimtzum. To explain both sides of the coin. That even though lifnei HaTzimtzum, it's whatever kind of heder HaMetzias it is. And even though La'achar HaTzimtzum, it's Mamash Esesfiras. This, Lagabe, this is only Gili Ahelim. It's only miyut, it's not shini amahos, it's not yeshmain. So what the Rebbe Rashab is doing is he's framing both sides of the sugya, that the sugya should work, lefi drush reh. So when you're learning in Pedic Yotes, that the essence Sfiras HaGenuz is lifnei HaTzimtzum have no metzias, what really he's really saying is, they have no metzias, but they still have metzias. It's very important to the Rebbe Rashab. Because if the Rebbe Rashab would say about the kav lifnei tzimtzum that has no metzias at all, then the kav after the tzimtzum would have to be as chachos, would have to be yesh miyayin. So even though when you read this Pedic Yotes, clearly the Rebbe Rashab is saying lifnei tzimtzum is no metzias to the Sfiras, but the way he's describing the heder metzias of the Sfiras is that they remain in metzias. How does he describe it? Second line from the bottom of the page, Lamites, right? Ein zeh shein klum zeh mizeh rak shishkenu yachad. Those words. And the end of the paragraph, the middle paragraph, yeah. Eruv v'yisachtas. The Rebbe Rashab is playing with us. He's not playing with us. He's trying to explain it to us. The nekuda that he's trying to explain is as follows. That when the Sfiras are included lifnei HaTzimtzum, they're not hiskalolus. They're not one. They're still 10. Just they have no metzias. I gave you yesterday a Machon of a Rav who's mashpia to a Talmud lefiyerech the Talmud. That when the Rav goes away, the Talmud's bittul to the Rav still remains because the Rav raises him up. If lifnei HaTzimtzum, the Esesfiras HaGenuzas, were included in what's called a bligvul, in a way of a Rav that's close to the Talmud, that means it wouldn't exist. If the Esesfiras HaGenuzas do not exist, lifnei HaTzimtzum, then La'achar HaTzimtzum has to be yesh miyayin, has to be as chachos. So the Rebbe Rashab is explaining lifnei HaTzimtzum, the Esesfiras HaGenuzas are completely bottled. But even though they're completely bottled, they're still eser. They're still eser. This is what the Rebbe Rashab is trying to paint, the picture he's trying to paint. Do I need to repeat that? I'm going to repeat it. Okay, I'm going to repeat it. Lifnei HaTzimtzum is Esesfiras. The Esesfiras are so bottled, they have no metzias. No metzias at all. But the idea that Esesfiras have no metzias because they're completely bottled doesn't mean that they became included in something higher. They're still 10. They're just nullified. They're just not expressing their 10-ism, but they're still 10. The bittul of Esesfiras is not that they become part of something which is one. The bittul of Esesfiras means that the eser are bottled. And even though the eser are bottled, they're still eser. Why is that important? It's important because if lifnei HaTzimtzum, the eser is still eser, no matter how bottled they are, you're able to explain that when they come after the tzimtzum and they become mamish as a sfiris, it's not a chiddush, it's not yesh meyayin, it's not his chachos, it could be gili al mamiyut. So this is the Rebbe Rashab's avodah here. You understand? If this was not Ayim Beis, we wouldn't have this whole spiel. Why not? Because if before Ayim Beis, the kav l'gab lifnei tzimtzum is yesh meyayin. The Kav is a Chodesh. But the Ayin Beis insisted it's not. It's all based on a Mashmos of Eitz Chaim. Which is, by the way, this is one of the 1,000 that I have an Ayin Beis. When you go through Ayin Beis, it'll become very, very clear to you, that the Ayin Beis is based on that Izam. Which means that the Maimorah before based on the Padis. I think you'll see it over and over again. Every really strong Nekuda of Eidos Mitziyadim is going to be an Eitz Chaim. As it is here. The Mashmos of that Izam. Go ahead.
It's like, as you explained yesterday with the Malachim, Hashem and Ramah, how...
Wait. I want to get to that. So I told you yesterday something in Shir, which the Rebbe Rashab Dafke doesn't say. Dafke. Now, I don't know, we'll see in two Maimorim from now, not Kerach, Kukas, which is still a hemshech of the same sugya. He's going to introduce us to this business of Eira Eila Al Kulana. Maybe, we'll see. But the Rebbe Rashab is very careful not to use the dogma that I gave. Dafke Nish. But it's the easiest way of explaining this. I introduced you to a unique bittul, which is you'll have it now in Beis and second chelik bariches. It's called Angel Lascha. There's two tzirim of Angel Lascha. There's one of Angel Lascha. There's Einyar Echacha, Angel Lascha, Efet B'tacha, O Midei Malach. There's 4 bittles. And Angel Lascha, there's 2 tzirim. Angel Lascha, the tzir in Chachma. Angel Lascha, the tzir of Kesed. This is Angel Lascha, the tzir of Kesed. It's called bittul of Hedet Tfisas Makom. There's a concept of bittul that the meaning of bittul is that you take up no space. The simplest mashal for a bittul of Hedet Tfisas Makom is Shrage B'tira. The sunlight, a candle in the sunlight has no metzias whatsoever. No one is going to say that there's a little bit more light in the world because there's a candle burning. Because it doesn't have any light. In no way does it illuminate the world more. But it's not the pshat that there's no candle. V'harayeh, the sun sets, the candle was there from before. And now the candle becomes very important. So the bittul is very high. But the bittul is very chitzanistic. Now, bittul of Hedet Tfisas Makom would be a very good hezbollah to this inyan. Because if our goal is, and it's clearly our goal, that we want to say that as Sfiras HaGenuzos of Ne'atzimtzam are so bottled they have no metzias. But on the other hand, we want to say that as bottled as they are, they're still 10, except that they're not expressing themselves. And therefore, when you take away the Eidin Sefer Bligvul, and as the spheres get a chance to express themselves, they emerge and they become 10 in a way of Giliyahel, in a way of Miyad. So the simplest Hezbollah would be that when you're in a place of very powerful Eid, you become bottled of that very, very powerful Eid. But the nature of that bittul is not that you become the higher Eid, that you're overwhelmed by the higher Eid. You take the higher Eid away, you remain what you were before, and there's Esed. But the Rebbe Rashab doesn't do that. He does not do that. What does the Rebbe Rashab do? The Rebbe Rashab does 2 things. He does 2 things. When the Rebbe Rashab is trying to explain to us how the Sfiras HaGenuzos Lefnei HaTzimtzum are completely bottled, even though they're Esed, he says 2 things. Number 1, look at the last paragraph on page Lametes. Okay? There are befedish Sfiras. So the shaila is, how could you have in one place all Sfiras? If I can't, the Sfiras of that madrega are stronger than the Sfiras are going to be later. How do they not burn each other up? How do they get into any fights? And the truth is, how they call keach meishu atzmi, every keach, the way it exists on a level of atzmi, is it is without a relation with anything other than itself. It's betekev yisir, it's stronger than before. So the kasha is, eichem klulim, how are they together? Bebechinas eidov, the same word eidov, v'hisachtos. Now you see, the word eidov is the same word as the word ta'aruvas. And I told this to you last night already. Ta'aruvas is a klipa word. The parallel of ta'aruvas in Kedushas is skalalus. And the second line from the bottom, Dev makes a point of saying, ein zeh shein klulim. Because the difference between Hiskalus and Aruvas means Hiskalus means you have a system made up of many, many parts. But the parts fit together in the kind of way that they're mashlim each other. In Hiskalus, you have Echad. You have many, many parts. but they fit together in such a way where every wire has a plug that goes into it. Everything matches in such a way that even though it's many, many pieces, it comes together in a perfect harmony. The Lashon which is brought, you'll see it later in the bottom of Kerech Ayin Daled. When you have Hiskalos and Tikkun and Kedusha, you have many, many pieces. Each piece is a mashpia and a makabel to every other piece in such a way that you don't know what's the reish and what's the seif. Each part of the guf is a reish in a different prat. In Hiskalolus, you have real achdos. You have many parts, but they come together in a harmonious way. I mean, the lumdus would be, like I told you yesterday, not like Machon and Gavril, but Beis Shammai and Beis Hillel. That Beis Shammai and Beis Hillel get along better than Machon and Gavril, because in Beis Shammai you have Kulei Beis Shammai. And in Beis Hillel you have Chumrei Beis Hillel. Why? Because they're Adam and not the Malach. Malachim are one midah. And when you bring together different midas, it's a fight. And the only reason they're able to be in the same space is because the Oyed Eliyot is Mevatel them. But in Kedusha, what's Ahavas Yisrael? What's Ahavas Yisrael? In every Jew, there's every other Jew. And I love you as you are in me, but B'meila I love you as you are in you. So we mamish achieve achdus. You and I are one because you have a piece of me in yourself, and you're Magala that part. I have a piece of you in myself, and I'm Magala that part. And that's the basis for our unity. So although it made up of many pieces, it's a real unity. Real unity would mean the Esed is no longer Esed. If the Esed is no longer Esed, then the Chiddush of Esed after the Tzimtzum has to be Eschachos. So the Rebbe Hashem says, no, it's not. It's like a Taruvis. What's Taruvis? Taruvis is, you're allowed to separate on Shabbos, not some shells. It's Taruvis. It's mixed together in disorder. Why does he want to use that Lashon, Eruv, or his Gemish? Because he wants to maintain. He wants us to come away from these few shudas with the understanding that even though Lifnei Tzimtzum and the Sfiras are completely bottled, they're still Esed. Okay? So the Shal is how? It's this again Kasha. How could you have Esed Sfiras? Especially that the Madrega of Atzmi, they're stronger than the Madrega of Mispasha. And they're all sitting in the same place, Lifnei Tzimtzum. Why don't they fight? Why don't they destroy each other? So he says two verses. The first verse is one line, the second verse is the rest of the paragraph, which is basically a Segrayim. Hine be'emes, third line, last paragraph, page Lamates. The truth is, Zehu l'may l'may asagid. That's the tenets. Those are the tenets. You can't understand it. It's above page Lamates. Zehu l'may l'may asagid. You can't understand it. Ach zen nideh nigish b'chush. Even though you can't understand it, it's still true. Shem sham be'esachtas. The Rebbe Rashab says, but you can't explain it, but it's true. Lifnei Tzimtzum, there's Esed Sfiras. And you have to know two things about the Esed Sfiras, Lifnei Tzimtzum. Number one, they're in a state of Achdus. And number two, the nature of the Achdus is not Hiskalolus, where the 10 becomes 1. The nature of the Achdus is Taruv, as the 10 remains 10, but they're Beis Batlos. How does that work? How does that eat each other up alive? I don't know, but that's the Metzias. The Rebbe Rashab says, Nida b'chush b'seichel. I don't know how many people are Nida v'nigid b'chush b'seichel was tutzach lifnei tzimtzum. But Nida v'nigid b'chush b'seichel. Everybody could see was tutzach lifnei tzimtzum, and you could see b'muchash u'b'murgish that there's Esed Sfiras, and they're still Esed, and nevertheless they're b'taruvas and b'esachtas. Then comes the parenthesis. And the parenthesis offers a shtickle hezber. And the parenthesis goes from 4 lines into the last paragraph, page Lamates, until 3 lines on the top of page Mem. What does the parenthesis say? The parenthesis is a very interesting thing. Every koyach has 3 madregas, right? Every koyach has 3 madregas. Besides for Yocheres. Yocheres is the 4th level. Every koyach has 3 madregas. Koyach atzmi, koyach nelam, koyach gola. Koyach gola is not only limited, it's in kelim. Okay? That means it's in your brain. Koyach Nelam has what's called the Hagbala Klolas, as they state in the Maimorim. It's not yet in Kalim, but it's Hamshach Chutz L'Nefesh. Koyach Atzmi is B'ligvul. So the Rebbe Rashab says a statement. Nothing is stronger than Koyach Atzmi. Koyach Atzmi is infinite. But Koyach Atzmi has no metzias. It makes no noise. And he gives a Gashmiz de Kamoshel. Eish HaYesedi, Mayim HaYesedi, Ruach HaYesedi, Ofar HaYesedi. I don't know how your memory works, but Hilchas Seder Torah was a couple of weeks ago. We just finished Rambam. And Hilchas Seder Torah, Perek Dalet, the Rambam brings the Dalet Yesed, the end of Perek Gimel, Perek Dalet, Dalet Yesed, the Eish Chochmah Menafel. And he gives a whole philosophy of the Dalet Yesed. That's correct. That's Kumtais. And that's the bottom line. Eish Yesed is not hot. Ruach, my head is not wet. What's the raya? Because between us and the moon, there's Eish Yesed and Ruach Yesed and Mayim Yesed. When you turn the rocket to the moon, it doesn't burn up at Eish Yesed. Why not? If there's Eish up there, why doesn't it get into trouble? Because anything which is in a matzav of atzmi does not have a mitzias. It's a cloud. This is how the Rebbe Rashab is in the parenthesis is resolving this question. Now you have to understand when the Rebbe Rashab brings the parenthesis, but pashtus it means that this is not in the maimed on which this maimed is based. Look in footnote 28. Look in footnote 28. Ba'abola kama re'ei da lahov b'teises be it inyan atzimtzim ha'rawon, which is neretated in Yodim. You see that? I didn't look, but I'm going to guess that all the parentheses, which is most of this Perek, is not there. This Segra. The first parenthesis is 3 lines into this Perek till 3 lines on top of the page. Right? Then, 2 lines after that, so that's another parenthesis, which was till the end of that paragraph. Then the entire next paragraph, the bottom of Mem, top of Mem Aleph, is right there Segra. Now, if you look in Eratera, this entire Perek is 15 lines. The Rebbe's Hisofis, the Rebbe Rashab, is adding to the Tzemach Tzedek more than Tzemach Tzedek writes. But Pashas, that's how it is. And again, I didn't look, but that's usually how it is. But the Rebbe Rashab and the Friedrich is for sure that way. But I'm suspecting that with everything in Segrayim, the Rebbe Rashab is adding to the Eratera in Yonah. So the Rebbe Rashab is adding more to the Tzemach Tzedek, and Tzemach Tzedek says. Tzemach Tzedek says, we can't understand it. And the Rebbe Rashab says, maybe this is Pshat. Quote, unquote. Maybe this is Pshat. Perhaps the Pshat is that Hayes we're talking about Keches Atzmim. And Keches Atzmim are Bli Gvul. Bli Gvul Eish isn't Eish. Because Eish has to be Medina Vakbar to be Eish. Bli Gvul Chochma isn't Chochma. Because it has to be Medina Vakbar to have a tzir of Chochma. Bli Gvul Mayim isn't Mayim. So the Rebbe Rashab says, you don't, and this isn't me speaking now, you don't have to come on to the husband of Eira, Eilal. You don't have to come on to the husband of a bitl of Hedet Tfisis Machon, which I talked about yesterday. You don't have to say that there's a higher Eir that's mevatel them in a way that they have no metzias. But when that higher Eir is going to be taken away, their metzias is going to re-emerge. Like when the sun sets and you'll see the candle. You don't have to say that. That would work very nicely. If the Rebbe Rashab would bring that husband, like I told you before, if you look in Samachei, but Yiglo and Adam, that Maimon speaks to Akudim and Akudim. This mashal plays a very critical role. This mashal of Eisah Shalom B'Neimav, that a higher air will battle you, your Matthias, not in the oifen that you become included in the higher air, you become bottled by the higher air, and when the higher air goes away, your Matthias re-emerges. So the Rebbe Rashab could have used that mashal. He could have used the mashal that the Eibush lifting that symptom, the air is so strong that the spheres are bottled by the Tfisis Makom. But that the bitl of Hedet Tfisis Makom is not that they become included in the Sefer Bli Gvul, it's that you don't see them. And the minute you take away the Sefer Bli Gvul, they re-emerge. Like when the sun sets, you see that the candle was burning the whole time. The Rebbe doesn't do that. He could, but he doesn't want to. Why? He doesn't need to. The Rebbe Rashab, you could explain as a Sfiras Ekdus of Lifnei Tzimtzum in an Eifen of Eruv and Isachtos, and 2 lines from the bottom, you have another lashon, Yishkenu Yachad. They cohabit, they live together, but they don't talk to each other. They don't talk to each other. Finished. In other words, there's a Gavaldik bittul, but the bittul is kula echitenius. A bittul pnimi means it has a kavana. A bittul pnimi means that we cooperate, we have a job. Here, bittul means we don't contradict each other, we don't burn each other up, but we don't talk. You know why? Because we're in a holding pattern. We're waiting for our chance. Our chance is going to come after the Tzimtzum. When the Eretz of Bli is removed, and the Sfiras Ekdus are going to emerge, the Sfiras Ekdus in Kav. Then we'll have a purpose. Right now, we're sitting still in it. Shah. We're sitting next to each other, right? His Achtus, Taruvis, Yishkenu Yachad, but not his Kalus, Chas v'Sholem. His Kalus would mean that we're cooperating. And cooperating means we become one. If we become one, then making them into 10 would require a Chiddush. And we don't want to say that. So again, it would be helpful to use the mashal I gave you of Eirei, not Eirei Klana. of head that faces Machon. But the Rebbe said you don't have to say it. Because there's a klal of Achei Temimim that on the one hand they're believable, on the other hand they have no mitzvahs. So b'meila, listen to this. Es Sfiras hagenuzes are bottled lifnei atzimtzum. You listening to me? You listening to me? Not because of eating safe. Es Sfiras hagenuzes are bottled lifnei atzimtzum. Not because of eating safe believable. No. Es Sfiras hagenuzes are bottled lifnei atzimtzum because they're in a state of etzim. And anything in a state of etzem is not a metzias. You don't have to blame it on something else. You don't have to say that the 10 spheres are completely bottled. Beis achtos, beis arvus, yishkur yachad, don't you say it's galus. Don't you say it's galus. You ruin the whole scheme. You don't need to have anything outside of the Esespheres Agnuzis to explain this Tarte de Sasa, these two Havchim. A, the Spheres Agnuzis are completely bottled, and B, they're still Eser. Why? Because they're in a state of etzem. Anything in a state of etzem, it's so strong that it's not making any noise. This is what the Rebbe says. And he gives a dogma from Achei Temimim and my simple. Right? That's this. It's not a hard shtickle. It just what bothers you about it is that it's so chitzeniistic. It's very chitzeni. It's not pneumiistic. Pneumius means that there's somebody above you that's making you behave. This is Pashat. I'm waiting for my turn to come. Right? My purpose is to be a kav and to come achar atzimtzum and to be in a state of gilui and to go eres into kelim and there should be eses fetus. Now I'm waiting, but in my waiting state, I'm not making any noise. I shouldn't bother you and you shouldn't bother me. Why? Because I'm believable and you're believable. Yeah, but if you're believable, we should be fighting even stronger. No. When anything is in a state of believable, it makes no noise at all. No noise at all. Problem solved. It's a chitzoniistic hezbollah. But that's what the Rebbe Rashab is saying. And if you appreciate what the Rebbe Rashab is after, you understand why he's saying this. The Rebbe Rashab is after Mashmos. That the Kavag of Lifnei Tzimtzum is Gilei Halam and Miyat and not Chachas. You wanted to say something.
Do we know why this explanation is better than your explanation?
Oh, I have no idea. I just think that you don't need it. The Rebbe Rashab doesn't bring anything. Listen, I told you, in 2 Maimarim from now, in the Maimir, after Koirach, Chukas, he brings Eir Ha'ela Al Kulana. Eir Ha'ela Al Kulana, I don't remember, but it's a similar idea, but could be he says it, but if you look on page, okay, I don't want to do this because I didn't prepare it, and I'm a great bluffer, but I don't want to get caught. You know what I'm saying? And if I bluff now, you'll know that I'm bluffing. So let's leave it alone. I don't want to look bad. Yeah, the Rebbe Rashab, the Revival is not bringing that, and the Hasbara is because you don't need it. You don't need it. Let me give it you in another vetet, okay? The bittel of Hedet Visas Mocha means that there's an oil which makes you nothing and him nothing and me nothing, right? But we're really still there. But the oil is not letting us express ourselves. When the oil goes away, we pop back up, right? So we're bottle, 3 l'shainis, hisachtos, taruvis, yishkir yachad, but chas v'shom to say hiskalus, because of an oil, yeah? If I come to you and I say, I can explain to you how you and I could be Besachtos, Betaruvis, Yishkur Yachad, and not Chafashon Beskalos, without an Oyer Elyon. Isn't that better?
Why?
Why is it better? Because the tennis is stronger. Tennis, I don't mean the sport. The idea of being Esed is stronger when nothing outside of you is being mevatel the Esed. When the bitl of the Esed is from you alone. We're 10 Sfiris. But because we're bli gavul, we're one. By ourselves. Your lack of Metzias and my lack of Metzias and his lack of Metzias lets us be in the same place. And there's no outside mevatel, just by itself.
Yeah, it's better.
L'chayr, it's better. I see, I don't know, but it's very clear that the Rebbe Rashab, at this point, is not going there. Could be that in Tumay Manav now he will. Chukas. But here he's not. He doesn't bring anything outside. He doesn't want to say that the Ein Sefer Beligvul is the reason that the Sfiras are bottle. He could say that. He doesn't. He says the Ein Sefer, that the Sfiras Sagnusis are bottle because they're infinite. And anything which is infinite, in a weird way, because it's infinite, has no mitzvah, so it can tolerate the opposite also. If Chas v'Shalom will be a little bit finite, now it's Chaim Tzadas. It's not fighting. You see what I'm saying? So let's do something, okay? Let's read the Maimah without the parenthesis. The parenthesis starts 4 lines into the last paragraph on Lamites. It goes into 3 lines on the top of page 1. Let's skip the parenthesis, okay? Well, the parenthesis is the Rebbe Rashab's Machon. And the Rebbe Rashab's Machon is the Machon from Eish and Mayim, which are different tzuris, right? They're different mitzvahs. And the argument is that when Eish and Mayim are beligvul, they have no mitzvahs and they don't contradict one another, right? Let's read before the parenthesis and after the parenthesis. Look inside, please. Look inside. So let's go back to the beginning. Hine be'emes, 3 lines into the paragraph. Zeh l'mayla me'asam. To explain how you have 10 and not 10 at all, right? Taruvis, his achtos, yishkunu yachad, but no his skalalus. It's very hard to understand. Everybody knows that this is the case. Let's turn the page. 3 lines top of the page. Shaharei gamba b'chinas ak v'chama b'chinas akudim heim kulam akudim b'kliachad. Even after that tzimtzum, and ak and akudim they're also akudim b'kliachad. Now, the Rebbe is making a suggestion here that you know why in ak all the sfiras are 1. You know why in akudim all the sfiras are 1. Not because of Eir, because of themselves, because they're atzmiyim. When something is beligvul, it makes no noise. How much more so in Zeish Lefnei HaTzimtzum, which is higher than Ak, and it's higher than Akudim, that there's a oneness. Now I just want to point out that we talk about the oneness in Ak, I'm talking about the oneness in Akudim, we're talking about Kalim. We're talking about Kav, we're talking about Oyer. It's apples and oranges. It's really apples and oranges. Yeah. No, it's harder to explain the 10. We're talking about Kalim. Kalim are always going to be 10. Why? Because Kalim don't have babies, Kalim are not born. The Kalim of Ak are bottled to Madireg of Sherish and Shamas the Gufas. The Kalim of Akudim are bottled, they become Okid B'Kli Yechid, right? So the Rebbe Rashab is arguing that the bittul of Kalim and Ak and the bittul of Akudim is not because of Eir, it's because of itself. They have no Metzias. We're using that as a mashal. What's going to be the name show? Oir HaKav. Oir and Kalim are different worlds. We're applying the same logic that we applied to the Kalim of Ak and the Kalim of Akudim to the spheres of Kav. The Kosh came be'edein seish lefnei hatzimtzum chulu. If the Kalim of Ak are 10 spheres and yet they're 1, if the Kalim of Akudim are 10 or 0, the Kalim of Akudim are 1, even though they're 10, they're 1, how much more so Oir of Kav lefnei hatzimtzum. And here's the next words. Va'ikeru lefish einem sham b'chiras metzias. The primary reason why lifnei hatzimtzum, on the one hand you have a fetish of 10 spheres, on the other hand you have no spheres at all. Why? Because you want to say, I'm sorry for keeping this record broken, but it's going to stay broken for the next couple of months. For 3 my mother words are broken. You want to say that the Kav Achar HaTzimtzum is Gili Halman, only Miyut, Legabe, the spheres of Nei HaTzimtzum. So Lifnei HaTzimtzum, you're saying that the Esses spheres are in a state of Taruvis, in a state of Yishkenu Yachad, in a state of Esachtos, because they have Hedera Metzias. Not because they're included in a higher Metzias. They just know Metzias. Why? Al Derech Moshel, Kirchas in a state of Bligvul. What comes next? Right to the Sigrayim. The rest of the paragraph is the parenthesis. Huh? How does the next paragraph begin? Vaha Moshel Bazeh. Now, Hamoshel Bazeh is not in parenthesis, correct? Right? The next paragraph, the entire paragraph, is right in the parenthesis. It's a very, very weird thing. The parenthesis on top of this page, 5 lines on top of the page. The parenthesis, versteht? U'kamoy or sechel mufshit. Is that a moshel or not? Huh? Page mem, 5 lines on top of the page. U'kamoy or sechel mufshit. Is that a moshel or not? It's a moshel. How does the next paragraph begin? Moshel bazeh. What's the gishen?
That's what someone said.
He's maitik a loshav and tzemach tzedek, and before he brings the tzemach tzedek's mashal, he brings his own mashal. His own mashal he puts in parenthesis, but when he gets to tzemach tzedek's mashal, he doesn't take out the words of mashal bazeh because he just gave a mashal. He leaves it. Now you tell me, what's the difference between the Rebbe Rashab's mashal and the tzemach tzedek's mashal? You guys learned this. They're both mashalim of seichel. The Rebbe Rashab gives a mashal, puts it in parenthesis. He quotes the tzemach tzedek, gives weiter a mashal from seichel. So his mashal is in segrayim, tzemach tzedek's mashal is not in segrayim. What's the difference between the two mashalim? It's hard to know. Think. Now, in a perfect world, I should really do this today. But in the crazy world in which we live, I'm giving you a separate sheet on the mashalim. In other words, we're wasting time. Patetzeit, mamish. I'm praying that on this sugya of Rei Basanish B'Sher Basanid, I'll only give one shir. It's such a hard sugya. And notice how it works. 2 lines are the Tzemach Tzedek, the rest of it is the Rebbe Rashab, and until the end. The last paragraph I did the Tzemach Tzedek. Again, I didn't look up the data, but that's usually how it goes. So the Rebbe Rashab brings his own mashal, and then he brings Tzemach Tzedek's mashal, and he forgot to take out the words of that mashal. It looks very funny. You bring a mashal, and then you bring a mashal to the mashal. So you tell me, what's the mashal from the Rebbe Rashab, and what's the mashal from Tzemach Tzedek? How are they similar, and how are they different, and how do they help? The mashal of the Rebbe Rashab is much edler than the mashal of Tzemach Tzedek. Much edler. Tzemach Tzedek's mashal is very simple. It's the same mashal we gave. That any koyach, when it's in a state of beli gvul, there's no mitzias. So the idea that one mitzias contradicts another mitzias is only true in this pashtus. The same mashal that the Rebbe Rashab gave from Eish and Mayim, the Tzemach Tzedek gives from Chochmah and Bina. Be'etzah manefesh, 3rd line, middle paragraph, page mem, had a yishken ukulam yachad. Notice the word yishken ukulam yachad. It doesn't say eskala, it's a staruvis. V'meyeshem kirchech l'tom zeh mizeh, zeh bechinet eish, zeh bechinet mayim, mekomo kamen kulam b'yachad, v'hainu l'yesem shom b'tachas hazachos v'aruchnias, le'minei v'le'mitosei v'klal, mikmei shehein achach b'hizgalas, and ve'einam b'mitzias nikeres adayin, al kein sheichnim kulam yachad. That's a moshe. Any koyach, what's in a state of beli gavul, is not a steer to another koyach, because even though beli gavul is stronger than gavul, but has no mitzias. Okay, you mean that's a spheres. It may yes, they be slabshusen be kalem and mechased the gurim of domes, and there become contradictions. Mikomo came be edem kul be in say for him dakas ruchnis lein case mechu achakach. That's a Tzemach Tzedek's mashal. Tzemach Tzedek's mashal, if I'm right, is very similar to the mashal that Rebbe Rashab gave from Eish Hamayim, right? But the mashal that he brings is a mashal from Avshata. The mashal that the Rebbe Rashab brings is a bomba mashal. Did you learn it or not? Yeah, you understood it. Tell me what he says. Yeah. Are speaking, but they're speaking such abstract words that they sound like saying exactly the same thing. Now, if you develop their words, you'll see that they're arguing. Arguing so much that they can't stand each other. But when they say it in Avshata enough, you don't even see what they're saying. In other words, the Rebbe Rashab is giving a mashal from the Gili of Keches Atzmi. That even when the Kecha Atzmi is revealed, if it's revealed that an Atzmi is dik away, one is not a steer to the other. Tzemach Tzedek's mashal is, if the Keches Atma not revealed, because they're bligvol, they have no Matthias. Because they have no Matthias, not associated to one another. And it's very useful to us. Why? Because it allows 10 to be completely bottled and still be 10, which is the whole point of this halariches. Yeah? But the Rebbe Rashad's mashal Edeleh. Now, I want to ask you a question. Was today's shir a total waste of time or just mostly a waste of time? I'm ernst geredet. What did I teach you tonight? I talked over the Maimed. I talked it over, it's all. And I emphasized the same point over and over and over again. I didn't tell you anything that you didn't know. Except the fact that the Segraim are the Rebbe Shabbat, the Pnim is the Tzemach Tzedek, and that also may not be true. But you look at the Machon on top of the page, and look at the Machon in the middle of the page. So we'll decide between now and Monday. I don't know what's going to be next week's schedule, because there's Beis Nissen and Fabrengens. This might end up happening after Pesach, but I'd like you to look over the two Mashalim and see what the Rebbe Rashab is saying different than the Tzemach Tzedek. Okay. Rabbi Blazovsky, Akoy, and Shlita. Okay, go, double mind. You want to say something?
What's the point of repeating my mark? Like, is the only just like parentheses?
Take out the Eira Teira and read it, and you'll fall in love with the Rebbe Rashab. Because you'll understand what he did. You read Tzemach Tzedek, you don't understand a word, Tishkavat. And most of these words are his. The Rebbe Rashab changes a little bit, takes out a little bit, adds a little bit, and makes it so readable. Reb Zalman Duchman in his Sefer, the Shema Oizen, has a Lashon, which is Gvaldik. It's a moedendige Lashon. That the Rebbe Rashab hat einmal gesagt, what's the difference between my Maimorim and the Mittler Rebbes? The Mittler Rebbes Maimorim darf man lernen. Meine seinen Gelernte. The mitzvah you have to learn. My Maimorim, I learned them for you. All you guys was read. And the Tzemach Tzedek is not much different. Forget, look up the Eira Teira. And forget about the parentheses. Just the text. You'll see what the Rebbe Rashab is magic. He streamlines Chassidus. There's a reason why Yeshiva Bacham learned the Rebbe Rashab. There's a reason. It's all copies from before. Everything is copies from before. But the before you can't read. And by him, it goes like a Geschmidt. It's so beautiful.